Dawn over the Llano golden light spills across endless grass dew, trembling like breath before battle. Horses stir in the mist. Young riders whisper prayers to the wind, the old songs barely remembered. Quanah Parker rides alone, silhouette framed by a red sky, quiet and unyielding as the plains. From his saddle, he watches smoke rise from far camps, each wisp a heartbeat of the Comanche nation. Children chase stray ponies, laughter breaking through morning calm, unaware of distant thunder. Elders sit near the fire, their words heavy with memory treaties, broken trails gone cold. Women grind corn beside hide tents, their rhythm steady, the sound of survival turned into prayer. At the river bend, traders arrive with bright cloth and dull promises, the air thick with caution. A drum echoes faintly across the valley, not for war, but remembrance of the hunts long ended. Inside a lodge, Quanah speaks low. We ride soon, not for glory, but for the right to remain. Young warriors oil their rifles, check arrowheads, yet glance toward home. Fire's love and duty entwined. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of horses' cedar smoke and something unnamed, yet inevitable. At sunset, families gather a shared meal, a silence deeper than any sermon or threat. Overhead, hawks circle slowly, as if tracing the lines of a story too old for words. Night comes. Soft firelight dances on painted faces. Drums pulse like a second heartbeat. Elders mark the ground with ash. Remember who we were before the rifles came, one murmurs. In the distance, a rider returns, dust at his heels, a warning in his eyes, soldiers are near. Dogs bark, horses snort, the air tightens. Stars watch as the camp holds its breath. Quanah kneels by the fire, whispers to his mother's spirit, show me the way when silence falls. The moon climbs high silver light on weapons laid in quiet readiness, courage measured in stillness. A boy listens to tales of Iron Horse and Bluecoat, wonders if he'll live long enough to see either. Women gather water at dawn, eyes sharp motions, graceful the calm before the day's unrest. Smoke rises from council fires, decisions drawn from memory, not fear. A crow calls thrice from the ridge. Elders nod, omen or coincidence none dare decide aloud. The prairie hums with hidden movement scouts weaving through grass shadows, blending with earth. Quanah meets with his lieutenants, maps drawn in dust plans whispered under fading stars. The old chief spreads a buffalo robe, patterns of ancestry drawn like constellations of faith. Children watch quietly as elders paint horses red streaks across muscle and memory. Wind rolls through the valley, carrying echoes of drums, the heartbeat of a people unbroken. At dawn, warriors mount faces, calm eyes fixed on horizon lines where smoke meets sky. Behind them, women stand silent, holding infants, clothes the scent of sage masking fear. From the ridge, Quanah looks back, once a leader and a son between loss and duty. Far off, the glint of bayonets catches morning sun, distant, precise, and mercilessly near. The wind turns colder, carrying the faint echo of drums and a single word, remember. As dawn breaks, the Comanche ride into history, into legend, and into the last light before the storm. Dawn burns over the canyon, the air thick with dust smoke and the waiting silence before chaos. Comanche scouts signal from the ridge. White dust trails mark the soldiers' slow advance. Quanah rides through tall grass, his horse painted with ash and red clay for protection. In the riverbed below, cavalry lines form blue coats, glitter like shards of metal under the sun. A hawk wheels overhead, its shadow crossing both sides, indifferent to history's choice. Drums rise from the cliffs, low pulsing, summoning courage from the bones of the plains. The first volley breaks the silence. Rifles echo like thunder trapped in a canyon. Horses scream, arrows flash sound, and dust blur into a living storm. Quanah signals retreat, drawing the soldiers deeper into narrow stone corridors. A young lieutenant shouts orders, voice cracking beneath the roar of battle. The Comanche flank left shadows in motion, moving faster than any formation. A bugle calls retreat, then charge, then nothing, confusion thick as gun smoke. Bullets spark against rock, brief stars in a daylight that knows no mercy. Quanah's riders sweep through the dust, firing, vanishing, reappearing like spirits of the wind. The river turns red at sunset, reflection of blood, not light. A wounded soldier crawls toward the bank, whispering prayers to a god that doesn't answer. Night falls without triumph, both sides counting losses in silence. The next day, soldiers burn the lodges. Smoke columns rise like funeral songs. Women cry out, their voices thin against the crackle of fire and the collapse of home. Quanah watches from the ridge, eyes hard, heart unbroken, his people scattered below. Buffalo skulls dot the plain, reminders of an empire already vanishing. The wind carries ashes eastward into towns that will never know their names. A scout reports, they move north again, fewer each time. Horses stumble through dry creek beds, ribs sharp under hide, spirits frayed but not gone. A mother buries a necklace in the sand, a promise that memory will not be taken. Snow falls early, thin flakes on burned earth, a cruel gift from the sky. In the fort, soldiers drink in silence, victory tasting of ash and regret. Quanah's war band sleeps beneath canyon walls wrapped in hides surrounded by ghosts. At dawn, the last campfire smolders, smoke spiraling like the last prayer of a fading age. The general writes his report. The Comanche threat neutralized. The paper smells of dust. Yet far to the west, hoofbeats still echo faint, defiant, unwilling to die. Elders gather what remains, a few ponies, a few rifles, and the will to endure. A child wakes crying, dreaming of thunder, but it is only silence now. The cavalry marches home. Banners, stiff faces gray, the plains left hollow behind them. Quanah buries his weapons beneath a cedar tree, not surrender, but remembrance. The wind keens across the canyon, carrying no victory, only the weight of what was lost. From the bluffs, the land looks unchanged, yet everything beneath it has been broken. The sun sets in a haze of dust, neither triumph nor defeat, only endurance. That night, an elder whispers to the stars, the land keeps its own record. Far away, campfires flicker out, the empire of the horse fading into silence. Smoke still clings to the canyons, thin threads of what was once a nation's breath. Quanah walks among the ashes, each footprint a question with no answer left to find. The lodges lie broken, scattered bones of buffalo and memory alike. Children search through ruins, small hands lifting what even time would not keep. A soldier watches hat in hand, unsure if he's guarding or grieving. The sky feels wider now, emptier, the land stripped of its voice. At Fort Sill, gates creak open, the empire of the plains reduced to fenced silence. Comanche riders arrive in single file, eyes fixed ahead, not down. The flags above the post snap sharp red, white, and blue against dust-colored souls. An officer writes their names wrong, history bending before it's even recorded. Quanah dismounts slowly, the weight of his people heavy across his shoulders. A drumbeat echoes faintly, not defiance, but endurance. Elders burn sage beside the barracks, smoke curling through wire like prayer. Children stare at tin cups, rations, and new words that mean less than hunger. The wind carries whispers, this is not peace, only waiting. Women rebuild fires from broken wood, sparks catching against all odds. At dusk, a soldier offers bread, the gesture trembling with guilt and pity. Quanah nods, not in thanks, but in weary understanding. The moon rises over the stockade. Pale light washing over loss made orderly. Buffalo trails fade into the horizon, replaced by wagon ruts and numbered allotments. A missionary writes of progress, never seeing the tears behind each quiet face. Children repeat strange prayers, words foreign to the rhythm of their breath. The river runs thinner now, as if even the water mourns. Quanah stands beside it, reflection split between the man and the legend forming. He dreams of his mother's voice calling him through wind, soft as forgiveness. In the camp, songs return, whispered first, then rising fragile and true. A soldier listens in the dark, understanding nothing yet, feeling everything. Winter brings hunger again, yet no one begs, only endures. Quanah rides out each morning to remember the land, to greet the ghosts. Snow covers the plains, the scars of battle hidden under a white, merciful veil. A boy finds an old arrowhead, holds it like proof the stories were real. Elders teach by firelight, lessons not of war, but of survival through silence. Quanah sits before the council, voice steady, eyes burning with distant light. We will live not as they wish, but as we must. Spring comes. Slow grass grows over burned trails, green, reclaiming gray. At dawn, a single hawk rises, tracing the path of what endures. The people follow no longer warriors or captives, but something unnamed, unbroken. By night, the drums return not for battle, but remembrance. The land breathes again, quiet, scarred, alive. Quanah rides once more through the valley, alone, unarmed, and unforgotten. His shadow merges with the earth, the last chief riding into memory, refusing to vanish. Morning breaks over Fort Sill, smoke rising not from battle, but from cooking fires. Children play in the dust, their laughter foreign, yet fragile, echoing where drums once ruled. Quanah Parker rides through the settlement, coat of wool, eyes of fire and memory. His braids shine with bear grease, The only war paint left to him now is pride. Soldiers nod in respect, unsure whether to salute or bow. A photographer sets his tripod history about to be framed in silver and shadow. Quanah stands still, 1 foot in the old world, 1 in the Iron Age. Click! The lens captures not surrender, but transformation. Elders gather at dusk, stories flowing like rivers between memory and myth. They speak of buffalo freedom and the long echo of hooves fading into time. Women sew garments of cloth and hide half tradition, half adaptation. A mission bell rings in the distance, hollow, insistent, yet powerless to erase song. Children attend school, their names shortened, their language trimmed like branches. At night, mothers whisper the old words, soft, dangerous, sacred. The moonlight touches every roof, neither tipi nor house, but something in between. Quanah walks among them, a chief still, though the title now means something new. He meets with officers, traders, teachers, each carrying their own version of peace. In his tent, a Bible rests beside a lance, symbols not opposed, but uneasy neighbors. The wind hums low, carrying faint songs from the plains beyond the fences. Visitors arrive from the east, journalists, curious men with pens and questions. They write of civilized savages, never hearing the quiet power beneath his silence. Quanah answers gently, words measured, gaze, distant dignity unbroken. At the edge of camp, buffalo graze, again imported, tamed, half remembered. Children point and laugh, not knowing these herds once thundered across the world. An old woman braids her hair, murmuring. The land still breathes under their boots. Summer heat brings visions, clouds shaped like riders, stormlight like painted shields. The young men herd cattle, now the horse still their brother, though the path has changed. Quanah's house rises near Cache Creek, stone walls, windows facing the plains. Inside, portraits hang, chiefs and soldiers side by side, history negotiating its space. He hosts councils under his roof, laughter mixing with memory and regret. A government agent records names, paper binding what blood once swore. Outside, the prairie burns gold again, grass returning to ground once scarred. Children chase fireflies, the war, now only a whisper in their songs. Quanah looks west one last time, where the sun dips behind the red hills. Let them remember, he murmurs, but let them live. The year turns quiet, railroads hum beyond the horizon, where the buffalo once thundered. Quanah writes by lamplight, ink flowing like memory, steady, inevitable. His hand trembles slightly, not from fear, but from time itself catching up. Outside, cattle move where warriors once rode, the rhythm of the plains rewritten. The sound of boots and iron wheels replaces the call of drums. Children speak English now, laughter bright, words strange and sharp. He smiles, half in pride, half in mourning, the weight of both too equal to divide. In his house walls bear portraits, warriors beside presidents, peace carved from paradox. Visitors arrive daily, scholars, politicians, photographers with fragile respect. They call him the last chief, a title both honor and eulogy. Quanah hosts them kindly tea instead of blood, stories instead of war. He tells them of wind, of fire, of how silence once ruled the land. At night he dreams of her, Cynthia Ann Parker, the mother lost to both worlds. Her voice lingers in the wind, soft, unbroken, calling him home. He wakes before dawn, stands at the door, eyes on the faint edge of the prairie. The horizon glows red like the embers of a fire refusing to die. He visits the graveyard near Cache Creek, small stones, great stories. Each name carved, shallow time, erasing what the land still remembers. A newspaper prints his portrait, hat, wide gaze, eternal headline solemn. Quanah Parker, chief of all Comanche. He laughs softly, almost shy. The land grows fenced and folded, its wildness traded for measure and coin. A storm passes, lightning crawling like old spirits over the hills. He sits alone that night, breathing the same air his father once claimed. His last entry reads simply, "The land endures. So must we." Days later, the house falls still, wind tapping gently at shuttered glass. Outside, the prairie blooms, wildflowers rising through the dust. The wind shifts, carrying no sorrow, only remembrance. Children born that year learn English, but still dream in the rhythm of drums. At sunrise, elders gather, they speak his name, as if calling the wind to witness. The Comanche flag rises beside the stars and stripes, two nations breathing under one sky. Trains roar across Texas, iron wheels singing over trails once marked by hoofs. A woman hums a song her grandmother taught her, the melody bending with the wind. Photographs fade in museum glass, faces staring back through the fog of time. His house becomes a shrine, boards creaking under the weight of footsteps and reverence. The prairie reclaims the old road's grass, covering the paths where cavalry marched. Tourists pass through, some looking, few understanding the silence that greets them. An old man points toward the horizon. "That's where we still ride," he says softly. New drums rise during the annual dance, echoes layered over echoes. Cowboys and Comanche ride together not as enemies, but as witnesses of endurance. The buffalo returns slower, wiser, walking the same trails as before. A girl stands at the ridge, hair loose in the wind, holding a feather like memory reborn. Her voice joins the song, high bright, carrying the promise forward. Under modern skies, cell towers and clouds share the same wind, once guided by stars. The old language returns, whispered first, then spoken boldly in classrooms. Road signs bear Comanche names again, the land remembering its own tongue. At sunset, the hills burn gold, each curve glowing like a story retold. Archivists digitize the old photos, preserving faces that never asked to be forgotten. In museums, children press their palms to glass eyes, meeting those who came before. Somewhere near the river, a hawk circles wings, wide shadow, long eternal. The wind hums his name again, not in sorrow, but in belonging. Quana it sighs through cedar and stone, the land remembers. And in that breath, the Comanche ride on. Not ghosts, but guardians of the wind.